This is Gemara Baba Basra, Daf Kuf Samoch Ches. Kuf Samoch Ches. Closing in B'siyata D'Shmaya on this incredible Masechta today's year. Should be an incredible Zchus Rafua Shlema for Tinoik ben Miriam Ahuva B'siyata D'Shmaya. Tinoik ben Miriam Ahuva should continue on his incredible path of complete Rafua Shlema B'Karov in Mirza Hashem. We're holding on the bottom of Kuf Samoch Zayin Amud Beis. 5 lines from the bottom. Says the Gemara, Hu Tavra, there was a Tavra, there was a receipt. And this really picks up from the previous year in which we learned that Edim will not sign a Tavra, a Shaver, a receipt of a Ksuba unless they know the peoples that are within the shtar. And therefore, in a scenario that a woman comes forward and says, hey, this Shaver, this Tavra, this receipt was incorrect, we don't listen to her. Why? Because we know that they only sign if they know what's going on. So says the Gemara, 5 lines from the bottom of Kaf Samach Zayin Amud Beis. Hu Tavra, there was a receipt. The Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba. The Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba was signed upon it. Asalikami Hayit. So a woman comes forth, Amran, she says, lay to him. Says this woman, Lav Ana Havoi. It is not I. There is a shaver, there is this tavra, this receipt of a ksuba being paid. Says the woman, it's not I. And as the Rashbam speaks out, so whom is it? Maybe there was another woman that posed and has the same name as mine. Same name as mine. So Amar, Lav Ana Havoi. Amar, Rav Yirmiyah says, Anonami. I as well. Amru I as well said to the Edim, Lav Ihi, that she is not the woman that we signed on the Tavra. So Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba is agreeing at some level, we'll see what this means, to the question being posed in Bezdin, that he says, I signed, but it wasn't for you. Va'amru li, but they, the other Edim, said to me, Makish hu dekashila. It is her. She's grown old. In as much as Rav Yirmiyah Abba is being maskim, he doesn't really recognize this woman. The other Eidim are saying, guess what? It is her, but it's been a few years. She has aged. Ubagar la kala, and her voice has deepened. And now continues Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba that guess what? Yes, I agree. This is her. Makish Kash's Kina, as the Ran Rashban says, and her voice has come thick, has come deeper. So says Rav Yirmiyah Abba that you are the woman in the shtar, in the Tavra, in this document. So Amar Abaye, Afal Gav Damar Rabbanan, even though the Rabbanan say, as we turn over to Kov Samach Zayit, Kov Samach Ches Amar Aleph, even though the classical klal when it comes to Eidos, Kivin Shehegid, once one gives Eidos of Einei Chayzeru Magid, you cannot give Eidos again. The Tapar Shvan tells us, we learned this out of Mesach Shvus from Imlo Yagid. Still, so one might say, if Rav Yirmiyah Abba originally sided with her, maybe he cannot be Chayzer now and say, no, I agree with what the Eidim are saying. But still, says Abaye, Surba me Rabbanon lavur chele meidak. Talmidei Chachamim do not generally examine the features of a woman. So, in as much as originally he was maskim that it does not seem like the same woman, it's because he wasn't really being precise in her features, in her look. And now that the Eidim said that it was, we side with the Eidim and we say that she did collect her shtar. We continue with another, and again, this is all an outgrowth in English, of the fact that you only sign on the shtar if you recognize the peoples in the shtar. Continues the Gemara, another story, 3 lines on the bottom. There's a tavra, there's a receipt. The Rav Rabba signed upon Amrulay. The woman comes in and says, Lavanava, it is not I, Amrullah. Evra antavos. Says Rav Rabba, yes, it was you. Amar Abaye, I've got the term running lavrich lemeidak, but keep the doc. It says Rav Abaye, the flip side. Maybe we shouldn't believe Rav Abba that he doesn't really recognize her. It says Abaye, no. They don't generally look, but if he says, I recognize her, then he has a credibility to say such. Says the Gemara, Amar Abaye, and this concludes part A of today's share. Rabbanan the Azali Kedusha Yitzah. They go to marry a woman Nidbar Im Amaret bahadei. They should take along an amaret with them. Why? Demachalfi la minei. They don't want to switch her for someone else and take her away from him. We want to make sure that it is the right person, of course. This is obviously another incredible siyata d'shmaya. We're sitting, this is the daf coming off of the parsha of the swap of Rachel and Leah. The Gemara discussing Malchalfi la mina. Absolutely incredible. We continue at the two dots. The Mishnah said that the husband has to pay the fee for the sefer, etc. My timer says the Gemara. What is the reason? Amar Kros says the Torah. Because he has to write and he has to give. This shows that the husband is the one that gives the get. Says the Gemara, nowadays, this is not the way we do it. The husband does not pay for it. The reason being, we place the responsibility on the woman. Why? So that the husband does not delay the get because of the fee. The woman wants to get divorced, the husband wants to divorce, and therefore we don't want things to be held up for a few dollars, and therefore we allow the woman to pay for the sefer. We continue with the two dots, about 13 lines down. V'chulu says Gemara Pshita. Obviously, the borrower is the one that benefits. Of course, he has to be there. Of course, he is the one that pays for the cipher. Says the Gemara Leisricha Beiska. What we're referring to is a case where it's not a stam loan, but rather it's an iska, it's a business, and therefore the lender benefits as well. So one might think that maybe they split the fee. Says the Gemara, no. The borrower is the one that does not provide the capital, is the one that pays for the sefer, etc. Says the Gemara, and again the buyer pays for the fee. Pshita, it's obviously if someone is selling a field due to its poor quality, so you would think that again maybe the buyer does not have to pay for the fee. The chiddush of the Mishnah is that he does. And he goes to Shari Erisin v'chulu, says the Gemara, V'yanari Shari Isim, and the chasam, the groom, pays for the shtar. Nachamol pshita lo'isricha, says the Gemara, the field super rabbanon denichle lechamuyi lekroivei surba meirabanan, and therefore the shver, the father-in-law, is happy to be related to this chashav talmud chacham. So you would think maybe they pay for the sefer. Says the Mishnah, no, the chassan still has to pay for the sefer. We continue in kaisin shtar erusin erusus v'kablano arisus v'kablanis. Pshita, says Gemara, a land that cannot be planted for some time, and therefore, even though right now the one that is the aris, the tenant, the kablon, he's not getting a benefit right now, still he has to pay for the shtar. Continues the Gemara. My shtari beirurin. So says the Gemara, I don't understand. What is the case? What is ishtar beirurin? Explains the Gemara. We're back in the middle of the Gemara. The first one line is beirurin. Explains the Gemara. Hacha targimu shtare ta'anasa. It is a shtar recording the arguments of the two litigants in a court case. Rav Abba Amar, Zebayr loy echad vezebayr loy echad. The document shows us that each one says the dayan that they chose. When each of the parties agree upon this person should be the dayan and this person should be the dayan, they read that down. That is shtare beirurin. And we are about 8 lines from the Mishnah. We conclude Rashbag Oimer l'shteihem kaisid shnayim lezeva atzmai lezeva atzmai. 2 documents, one for each. Says the Gemara, Lema b'kaifin almida sedaim kamifli. Is the machlekes Tanakam and Shimon Gamliel whether we force in the behavior of sedaim that what? Demar savar kaifin, umar savar in kaifin. The Tanakam says we are kaifin people not to act like sedaim, and therefore they share one document. And Rashbag says no, we're not kaifin. Says the Gemara, Loi dekuli ama kaifin. Everyone agrees we're kaifin amida and sedam b'achad. And the time of the Rashbag, why does Shimon Gamliel say you write a second document? The Amar lei. The reason being that one can say to the other, Nichli teravi zuchuscha kabe zuchusi the damas alai ki arye arava. Because one can claim for the other, I do not want that your arguments should be written with my arguments. Why? Because it's arva. You're sitting there lurking like a lion, and therefore I'm nervous to allow it to all be in one document. And that is the reason why Shimon Gamliel says we listen to their hesitations and we write 2 shtarais, but it's not because of kaifin almida sedaim. We continue, we're at the Mishnah, about 12-15 lines to the bottom. Misha para mixas chayva. Someone pays up part of a chayv v'hishlish es shtar, and they give the shtar to a third party. V'amar loyin, says to the third party, im loyin estat chamikavad yem plaini If I don't pay up the rest of the debt until a certain date, I return him the shtar, and then I'll be obligated to pay the whole thing. It's $1,000 loan. He pays $100. He gives the shtar to a third party, and he says, "Listen, if I pay within the next month, gewaldig. If not, return the shtar, and I'm going to re-obligate myself in the full $1,000." He has not paid. Rav Yosi Omer Yitin, you give it back. Rav Yehuda Omer Loi Yitin, you do not give back. And the Gemara begins immediately and says, I don't understand what is this machlekes Rav Yehuda and Tanakam my kamiflagi. Says the Gemara, Rav Yosi and Rav Yehuda. Rav Yosi Omer Asmachta Kan, Rav Yehuda Savar Asmachta Loikanya. Classic. The fact that he says you can return it, that's an asmachta, that's a reliance. Is that binding? The fact that he said, oh, you could give it back and I'll pay the whole thing, is that real or not? That is the machlekes. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba bar Rabu, Amar Rav Alachik, Rav Yosi, you pass like Rav Yosi, that asmachta is yes, kanya. He taught us once, Ushniya, and twice, Alachik Rav Yosi, Ani ma'aseh. Ve'ein halacha ki Rav Yosi. Says the Gemara, fascinating. Even though we've taught this numerous times, says Rav Ami lo ma'isa ani ma'aseh. What could I do? He argues, says the Gemara, you are correct. Lo ma'isa, we do not paskin like Rav Yosi and Lama'isa. We paskin that ein halacha ki Rav Yosi. The Rashbam, a few lines to the bottom, 4 lines to the bottom, spells out. Aval Pishani Muka Yimai with Rav Yasi, the Smachli Yosi Smachli Kani Lam Kain Kana Mine Bebezdin Chashav Loy Onis Kalamar Sech Nadarim Lamaisa we paskin Asmachta is not Kaina. And with that we continue with the next Mishnah on the bottom of Kuf Samachas Amar Aleph. Says the Mishnah Misha Nimcha Shtar Chayva, if a document became a race, what do? Ma'amid Alav Eidim, you stand on upon it, Eidim Ubal of Bezdin. And you bring the Eidim in front of Bezdin, Vice like Kiyam, and they validate the job of new document, and they validate which reads as follows. The star was erased behind Pliny on such and such date, as we turn over to Kuf Samachas Amid Beis. So they write the date of the star, Upliny Eidim, and such are the Eidim. So if we are Eidim that recognize the star, then now, even though it is erased, you create a new star via the Eidus and Bezdin that they testify that there was a star. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, the Gemara wonders, Eizehu Kiyumai, how do you certify this new document that was written up to replace the erased document? Says the Gemara, they write as follows: Avina, in the presence of 3, we were sitting on Anu Pliny, Hoitzi Pliny ben Pliny, and a certain person came, Shtar Mochak Lefanenu, with an erased star. Behind Pliny, Eidim, and such are the Eidim. Vim Kasav Boy, and continues the Gemara that if the following clause is written in the Kiyam Mozaknu Leidusan Shal Eidim, that we investigated the Eidos v'nimsais Eidusan mechuvanais, and we have found that the Eidos was correct, then a Gaiva you could collect with the star. You don't need a further Raya. V'imlav, if they did not write that last critical clause, then Savak Lavi Raya, you're going to have to prove to that which the star was written. So this is going to be a Kiyam. 3 people writing about this new star that was written in Bezdin, and if they added on the line that says that we researched and found that Eidim were valid, then you collect with that. Continues the Gemara. So now that we just started discussing what do we do with a star that is erased, continues the Gemara, Nikra Pasol. If we have a star which is torn up, it is Pasol Nitkara. But a ripped up document is kosher. Nimchak, if it's erased, oy nitash, or it is stained, imri shumay nikra, if you can see the original document, kosher. So says the Gemara, the Avi is kasher, echadami nikra, echadami nitkara. What is these 2 cases? Torn and ripped, very nice, we use 2 different English words. But the Baisa, what is the difference? The document is ripped up. Amar Rav Yehuda, nikra as kara shel bezdin. What does it mean? Nikra means it's a special tier that the Bati Dinim would make on the star, and therefore now you cannot collect with the star. Nitkara is what? Kara she'inoi shal bezdin. So now the Gemara continues, it's Eshkayach, but what is that? Heichi dami kara shal bezdin. What is a tier made of bezdin? Amar Rav Yehuda, makam edim u'makam azman u'makam ha'tayrif. If there's a tier that runs through the edim, the date, and the tayrif, the ikra of document, that is a tier of bezdin, and that can no longer be collected with. Amar Abaye, Amar, Shasi ve'eriv, if there is a X-shaped tier horizontal and vertical, then that is another way that Beis Din tiers it, and that will show us that you can no longer collect with that document. So again, if the document stam is a tier, you could, but if it has the tier either through the edim, the zman, and the tayrif, or Abaye says shasi v'arif, then you cannot collect it with it any further. And continues, and we'll conclude for today with a story. Hanu Araboid Asil Bambadisa. There are Arabians who came to Bambadisa Avikansi. Arasadin she who were forcing people to give away their land. Asim Aravase Likame de Abaye. So owner of someone who did not yet get their land seized by these Arabians came in front of Abaye. Amr le lechzi marshtari. So they said to Abaye, Lechzi mar star and mar Abaye, look at our star. Mar. And Abaye, please write for us star achrina aluye, another star on our original star. That was the dimitinas chad, so that if these guys come and take away our land and take away one of our staros, Naktinu chad biyadin will still have a secondary star to prove that Lamaisa still is our land. Amar Lahu Abaye responds, what should I say? Da Amar Rav Safra ein kaisin shtei staros al sada achas. Why? Damotarif other tarif. Says Abaye, I can't do it. Why? Because you might come to collect twice. Therefore, Abaye refuses to write a second document. But the owner would not give up. Having kartar delay, the person was pestering Abaye, insisting, please write us another star, then take away your land. Amr Leila Safrei. So Abaye said to the Sefer, still costly. So just go write for them another document. Who ala mechak ve'idav ala niyar. But write the document on an erased parchment and the edim on a fresh piece of parchment to puzzle. Abaye said just to get him off his back, write it in a mannerism which is puzzle. And therefore I'm not going to void and I'm not going to be in violation of writing two staros, but I'll just get them off my back. Says the Gemara, maybe you'll be able to see the original Rosh of the impression. It's going to be kosher. So he said to buy away, maybe it's going to be kosher. I didn't mean to write a full star. Aleph Beis Ba'alma Kamina. I meant write some letters of the Aleph Beis. Clearly a not kosher star. Let's get them off their back because Abaye held that you cannot write two staros. We'll pick it up from here. B'siyata Dishmaya.